So let's start with the basics for Chapter 9. What is the agency relationship and how is it created? All right. Um, so your book does offer the definition of agency from the Restatement of Agency, the third edition. You may remember restatements are effectively codifications or transcriptions of what amounts to common law, right? So restatements are persuasive as a source of law, but what I did is took that definition and tried to make it more readable and legible. So I think this definition achieves that and still has everything that we need. All right, so we're talking about agency this chapter. For our purposes, agency is a fiduciary relationship resulting from mutual agreement between parties that one party shall act on behalf of another subject to the agreed upon parameters of the party. That's agency. That's what we're talking about this chapter. Okay, so I said I tried to take that definition and make it a bit more plain. I still do have some big words there. So one is fiduciary. So let's talk about what fiduciary is. All right. A fiduciary is any party who acts on behalf and for the benefit of another party. All right. Giving you some examples of a fiduciary relationship. If you have a bank, your bank is your fiduciary because they hold your money for your benefit, right? For your safekeeping. All right. Fiduciary relationships are one of trust and confidence. You wouldn't use a bank if you didn't believe that your money would be there when you needed it. All right. Um, so to that end, agents are fiduciaries of their principals. All right. How are agency relationships created? All right. So most agency relationships are created by contractual agreement. All right. So you may recall from 2080, contracts can be formed either in writing or orally. All right. And so an agency agreement is a type of contract. All right. By ratification. All right. And this is easier to illustrate with the scenario. So let's say that I hold myself out as a promoter. I promote concerts and shows to local nightclubs. So I show up at a club, we'll call it Club Vision, and I say, um, I represent this group, we'll call, um, the crew. All right, I represent the crew. I would like to have them perform in your club. And so let's say I hash out the entirety of a contract. The crew is going to perform at Club Vision for $5,000 on a Friday night. Okay. Well, guess what? I don't actually represent the crew. So after I agree to that with the owner of Club Vision, I go and contact the crew and say, hey, guess what? I've booked you guys to perform at this club. Well, the crew doesn't have to accept or agree to do that because I'm not their agent, even though I represented myself as such. But if they wanted to, they could ratify that act after the fact and show up at Club Visions on Friday and perform. If they do, they would be entitled to the $5,000 less whatever my negotiated fee was. So that's how ratification works. It is after the fact when one party has represented them as an agent when they actually weren't, but the would-be principal goes back and says, okay, I actually want to be a part of that deal. So that's ratification. It's called ratifying the deal, the action of the agent. Estoppel. All right. So anytime you see estoppel in a law course, and this was true in 2080, it's going to be true in this course. Think of an equitable remedy that is in place to prevent an unfair result. All right. So estoppel. The principal causes a third party, the actions of a principal cause a third party to believe that there is an agency relationship, and the third party acts on that belief to their detriment. All right. Let's say that I own and operate a restaurant. I am the principal. And I have an executive chef who I usually have signed for meat delivery. So there's a butcher that delivers meat once a week, right? And I have the executive chef sign for these deliveries, and also when I decide what we're ordering, I have the chef order the meat. All right. I take a vacation and I'm gone for a week. Well, my executive chef then orders the same amount of meat that we would have otherwise ordered. All right. Well, when I get back from vacation, I flip out and say, I didn't authorize you to order meat from the butcher. All right. Well, in that case, I'm still going to be obligated to hold up to that contract and pay for the meat that the butcher delivered because my executive chef was an agent by estoppel. All right. So the butcher, relying on previous actions, previous course of dealing, sold the meat and agreed to bill my restaurant. And so now I'm obligated to pay the bill because my executive chef is my agent by estoppel. All right. That's how that works. By operation of law. All right. And this has a couple of examples. We'll use a few. Let's start with the one that is most obvious in business. All right. So to form a corporation, you have to have an agent for service. That's a pretty consistent rule in every state. So the formation of a corporation, you have to have an agent for service. Basically, who do I let know when I want to sue or serve notice of a lawsuit? The company, the corporation. All right. Well, that's agency by operation of law. The person listed is an agent, at least and for a minimum, to receive notice that your corporation is being sued. All right. Let's throw in another example. So if a spouse becomes incapacitated, all right, that's based on a social duty. The coherent spouse has the opportunity to make judgments and decisions for the incapacitated spouse. So that's agency by operation of law. Okay, so that's our quick run through of how agency relationships are created, and that's all for now.